Hey everyone, Lauren from A Girl and Her Wool here. You may hear a little bit of background noise. My cat Pi, who is not usually the one sitting with me on these videos, found a ping pong ball and is very excited to play with it, and he's been driving me crazy all morning, so I'm gonna let this happen. I hope it's not too much. He is not as young as he used to be, and so he doesn't last as long running around. So it is getting chillier out. I have a shawl on, I have long sleeves on. I'm going for a run as soon as I'm done recording this, and it's in the 50s, and I love cooler weather. My most recent video that I posted has all things that I'm looking forward to in terms of fall, and all my favorite knitwear that I'm going to be taking out, and so go check that out. But today, this is my Riley Rose cowl shawl, which is a pattern by BostonJen, and I used One Twisted Tree yarn for this. It's a little small shawl, so it's perfect for layering in fall, and Nacho is now here to join us recording. But today, Pi's still going nuts. But today we are going to be doing our conclusion to the Fade Dye-Along. So first of all, thank you to everyone who has been watching and commenting and participating. Thank you to those who purchased the kits. I shipped them out last week, so everyone should have gotten their kits by now. I know the mail can be a little bit slow these days, but hopefully you've all gotten them. And yeah, so I'm gonna kind of just wrap up the dye-along, kind of talk about some of my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear some of yours, and then at the end I will announce the winner of the giveaway. So as a recap, we dyed up 3 skeins in a set, and I have them here so I can show you guys. I have a bunch of skeins here because we're going to talk about a few of them, but this was our final. Oops, this one became unwound. So yeah, so I have a few skeins that I'm going to talk through, but again, I have the main one here. So this is the kit that we kind of came up with. Sorry, these aren't the cleanest wrapping job here, but we had our first skein that was lots of pinks and greens, as people kind of requested in the initial video. So again, if you're new, go check out the series, but basically I asked the viewers to come up with what we should be doing, and I use that as guidance before doing the Dye With Me videos. So a lot of people talked about pinks and greens in a fall theme, so I kind of did some of those muted pinks and greens, and then we went into a more rosy purpley kind of color, and then we moved from the purple into a more neutral, but we brought in a lot of the same themes that we had throughout the skeins. So this is the set that the winner will receive, that I'll announce at the end. And so yeah, so some of my thoughts on it. Overall, I think it went pretty well. It seemed like people really enjoyed doing this. Personally, it was a fun challenge to read the comments and want to use those as my inspiration. So while I think that they all kind of have my look to it and my dyeing style to it, a lot of it I really did base what we were going to do next on what you guys all said. So that was a fun challenge for me to do as a dyer, to kind of give up some of that control, but then also make sure it was kind of A Girl in Her Wool themed as well. I think the 3 skein was a good length for the series, having the 3 separate videos. I know some people talked about wanting to add more skeins. That was a lot of the comments on the previous video. The 3rd one was to add a few more skeins. I am going to end the dye-along series though. I've decided I'm not going to add any more to this set, just because I do want to get this set mailed out to the winner, because I've talked about doing that giveaway and I want to uphold that. So I'm not going to add any more to that, but I also will take that into account for future series, that maybe I would dye up 2 skeins, like do more time lapses to kind of not make the videos too long. You guys have seen me now talk a lot about a lot of my techniques, so maybe I can do 2 skeins per video without making it too long, and then provide a longer set. I have ideas and things that I want to do. I know someone made the recommendation of doing the videos like this quarterly or seasonally, and I love that idea. The whole series thing is you know, it's more time consuming than doing separate videos, just because like we'll get into with skein number 2, that took me multiple attempts to get it right, whereas if I'm just doing a dye with me and see how it comes out, it's always going to be a one take, and I'll show that and we'll talk about it after. So I do plan on doing more series, and so if there are series you want to see, if you want to see more sets like that, or I talked about this last time, like a gradient set, or doing a series that's just a topic and we kind of explore that topic over a few videos, I am totally open to that. And so definitely let me know what you want to see. In the meantime, before I do the next series, I will have one-off dye with me videos. So those are going to be ones where I probably will show the skein first and say, here's what we're going to do. And I like the idea of showing what the skein looks like first, because there might be certain things you see in it that you're like, oh, how did she do that? And then you can know to look for it as you watch the dye with me. So if you saw this skein, maybe you would say, you know, how did she get those speckles on there? And then you would know to look out for it, or something like that, versus just kind of seeing me dye a skein and then seeing what it looks like. So I do have videos planned for what I want to be filming, and I've talked about them a little bit. I want to show, and I know someone commented about this as well, and I do plan on doing a video on batch dyeing, so you guys see me film a lot of in these dye with me's. I always do one skein at a time, just to not over confuse or make it longer, but I will kind of show batch dyeing. Someone asked about pooling, so I'm planning to do a video on dyeing a skein 2 ways, one with the same colors, one where it will pool and one where it won't, and then also just one of a kind dyeing. So if there are certain techniques you want to see, I'm happy to do that, but just color play, and other things that I've thought of that I won't list here and drag this out for too long, because I do want to talk about this series in particular. Okay, so I think like some things that I want to talk about, I will talk about, but I also want to talk about skein number 2. So I did skein number 1, and it was like a typical dye with me. I knew I wanted to do the pinks, and I knew I wanted to do greens, and I knew I wanted it to be fall. And those were the only 3 things that I had to stick by when I did that. When I made skein number 2, I had to make it somewhat similar to skein number 1, and I had to make sure that it would somewhat fade. And it does show up darker on camera. They are closer in color in real life, especially some of these lighter skeins in there. And so when I set out to do skein number 2, people talked about doing deeper roses and browns. And I think this was a part where I learned that even though I wanted to take the feedback of the viewers, I also needed to use my own dyeing expertise as well. And so the first kind of skein that I came up with was this one here. And this is not the actual one. This is a different skein, but of the same colorway, and we'll talk about why in a second. But just the contrast between them was too much. I did too much purple. And one thing that I actually also did was, if you look at where some of these reds and the greens are that we used in the first one, you'll see those are much deeper. So like that green there is much deeper than it is here. And you can see the red is much deeper than the red is here. And what I did was, when I mixed up my bottles, was I made them darker, deeper versions, thinking that that's kind of where I wanted to go. And I think for me, a lot of that came from, I do a lot of gradient dyeing, and that's kind of how I do my gradient dyeing. But the point of this was to do more of a fade, and so you need the same colors going from skein to skein in order to fade, and then you just want to introduce new colors. And again, I think I also introduced too much purple, like it became just too much of a purple skein, and so I wasn't a huge fan of it. However, I was a huge fan of this colorway, and so this became my Autumn Vibes colorway. And so the original skein that I dyed up on my BFL base to pair with this for the dye along actually has sold. So I dyed up, this is actually a 200 gram skein on my sock base, and so this is in the shop, but you can order 100 grams or 150 grams. I just wind off. I tend to dye up larger skeins and then wind off how much people order. And so this became a regular colorway. I was obsessed with it. I love the look of it for fall. I don't do too much with purple, and so I really just liked adding this to my fall repertoire. And so if you do get this skein, you'll notice some of the same themes in there from the dye along. So you'll see that it has like the red and green base to it. You'll see kind of some of the deeper rose that we speckled on there. You'll see a lot of the same techniques from skein number 1, but then you'll just get a lot of that purple in there and a lot of the deeper versions of those colors. So that might be cool if you're interested in that. But again, that became my Autumn Vibes colorway. All right, he can't come over here because of all the yarn. So yeah, so happy accident with colorway number 2. So I won't be airing the dye with me that I did when I filmed this, just because it has become a regular colorway. But again, if you pay attention to the other videos, you'll see a lot of those elements if you do end up wanting this colorway. So that is my Autumn Vibes colorway, and again, it just came out too different. I wasn't happy with how it came out, and you can see a lot of the similar elements in there, but it just was a little bit too different. And it also, you know, a lot of people said, yeah, we can introduce the purples, but I felt like it was too purple versus people really wanting deeper roses and browns. So that was attempt number 1, and it was a happy accident because I love the colorway, and because I was writing the recipe down knowing I'd be dyeing the kits and I had the film, I could recreate it, so that was nice. Okay, so attempt number 2, which was not the final attempt either, ended up being this skein here, and this will be listed in the shop as a one-of-a-kind if you're interested in it. But again, it wasn't quite right. I think, again, it looks a little bit darker on camera. I think this one actually came out like too similar to the first one, believe it or not. But here it is. So if you guys remember back to that video, so again, it has a lot of the I put the dye bottles, the dye that I mixed in the bottles, back to the same formulas, so the base is exactly the same. I started, and maybe I'll air this dye with me if you guys are interested. I think I still have the film, but a lot of the beginning was the same, so you can see the same green and pink in the 2 skeins. And I tried to speckle a lot less purple on this one, so I did. But on this one, I introduced the orange. You guys will remember we talked a lot about introducing the orange. I think because we were talking about doing a very fall themed video, going into oranges kind of started to make sense. But because we ended up bringing so much purple and rose into it, the orange just stood out too much. And so I wasn't a huge fan of it. So you see a lot of the bright orange in there. And I think you guys will agree, it just doesn't work as well with this skein. It was a little too much, and so that's why I kind of took it out. So otherwise, it was a good fade skein. I just wasn't a huge fan of the orange, and I felt like it just looked like this skein with some purple on top of it, and I really wanted to bring out again those roses and browns that people were talking about. And then when we finally did the third one, I think I got the happy medium of doing what the people wanted, but making sure that I knew it would work. So kind of taking out the oranges, bringing in the deeper roses, but not having it too similar, not too much the same. And I think I really got that nice balance of bringing in the roses, bringing in some rounds, introducing the purple, but you can see the purple is just so much lighter. On this skein, I did more speckling, and on this one I blended it up. So the purple that I ended up blending in that bottle is a purple blended with kind of some other like pinks and things to kind of make it a more blended purple. So instead of using the purple as I have it, I kind of blended it in more, which I think helped a lot. So that was skein number 2. So again, I had the 3 attempts, and if you look at them, they're not all that different. Like, they had a similar theme, but it was just little things about them. Like, this one was just too dark purple. This one had that orange that I just didn't like. And then this one had a good blend of purple and rose together. So when I got to skein number 3, this was a 1 attempt thing. I learned a lot when I was doing skein number 2 of making sure that I I listened to what everyone want, but make sure I kind of did what I knew I could. So going into skein number 3, there was a lot of talk about bringing in more neutrals so that people would have, like, if they did a 3 skein shawl, like more of a neutral. Again, because it's a fade, I wanted to make sure we brought in the elements of the second skein, but I tried to make it lighter and more neutral. I also wanted to make the point with this one that I wasn't necessarily going for a gradient, so a lot of people said, I don't know where we're gonna go because at this point it's gotten kind of dark. The only thing left might be deep browns, and so I'm not sure what you should do next. And so to make the point of this isn't necessarily a gradient. We didn't need to go darker. We just needed to bring in some colors. I really went back to some of the lighter options there. So started with that neutral base, brought in some of the same purples. I think, brought in some of the same purples, some of the same pinks, but not too much. I kept it very light, so again, I wouldn't make the same mistake of here, going too heavy-handed. I say in the video so much about starting light, you can always add more, and then I ended up just with too dark of a skein the first time. So that's kind of where that lesson came from. And I really think that this worked well. It really blended in nicely without going back to the same color. So we really did progress into those purples and tans. And I said this last time, but if we wanted to get to the oranges and kind of some more fall foliage type colors, we can probably get there from here. So you can see I certainly learned a lot by doing this process, and I hope that showed through, and I hope that you guys learned something too. It's hard because while I like to show what I'm doing and what I'm dyeing, I don't necessarily talk about all of the details, and I certainly realize that it's not necessarily a tutorial where you can follow along and end up with the same product, because there are going to be kind of proprietary type information that I want to hold in and keep within my brand, and so I hope you all understand that. And there have been no comments otherwise, so I think you guys all are, but it's just something like I wish, you know, you guys were all in the room with me and we could all like dye it up together, but that's just not what I'm giving off here. So I hope you did still learn something, especially hearing some of the mistakes that I made along the way. We all learn from mistakes, and so I hope you guys found that interesting. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, which again, I'm not sure how much you guys are all thinking about this, but something that I thought about was, in some ways to me, this kind of came out to be less of a traditional fade, and I think that is because again it's 3 skeins, and so I wanted to show color progression, but I didn't have too much room to do it. So you saw with the orange it was too much of a jump, but if we added more skeins on, maybe we could get there. And I think that that is something that I found to be the case here, is that maybe this isn't the most traditional fade, maybe it's just a 3 skein set to you, but I still think that there are fade elements in here, and I think we can all learn about fades through this Dye With Me series. So I hope you guys all agree, but that is something that I thought about as well, in that it's not the most gradual fade that you might see in some skein sets that are 5 to 7 skein sets, because you have the room to make smaller baby steps, but I wanted to make this series fun and change up what I was showing in each video, so that's something that I wanted to just point out as well. If it is something you were thinking about, it's something I thought about too. That's it. So again, thank you guys all so much for participating and tuning in. I'm definitely going to keep uploading Dye With Me videos. I'm probably going to stick to doing them every other week, simply because they're a lot of work to film them. I'm typically just dyeing that skein in that time frame because I want to give it my attention, and given that I do work full-time and then dye on the side, it's hard for me to give up an afternoon on the weekend to just one skein. So I hope you all understand that every other week is probably all that the Dye With Me is going to be for right now, and then in a couple of months look for another series. The shop is always getting updated with new things, so I have lots of fall skeins loaded in there. I have made the change to only listing in stock items, which means that, for example, like Autumn Vibes, I'm gonna be loading up this 200-gram skein, which means that if you want multiple 100-gram skeins, it's there. You just might need to reach out to me for some of the quantities or bases as I kind of learn the demand and come up with the best way to stock items as I can. The ping pong ball is back, so I'm gonna go toss it. So my cats are like dogs in that the ping pong ball is back. They tend to play fetch, but I want to make sure I announce the giveaway winner, right? That's what you guys are all sticking around for. So the winner of the giveaway, which is gonna be the set on my BFL sock base, these 3 skeins very much here. I will just reskein them. I wound them off so I could get a closer look at them when I was dyeing them last week. So they will be skeined up nicely. But the winner is going to be, and how I did this, I'm such a tease. How I did this was I counted up all the comments and the posts using the hashtag, basically numbered them that way, used random.org to get a random number. And so the winner came from the last video, the Skein 3 video, and the winner was Melissa Palmer. So here's how it's gonna work. So that way you can see it here. I will not reply to the video until a week from when this airs. So next Tuesday I will reply to that comment and say you were the winner. But if you see this before then, please email me at agirlandherwool@gmail.com with your address and I will mail this off to you. So if I haven't heard within a week, I'm gonna reply to the comment, the winning comment. And then if I haven't heard back, probably about a week after that when I next post a dye with me video, I'm going to pick another winner there. Because I don't want this to drag out too long, I want to get these skeins mailed off. So basically you have from 2 weeks from when this video airs to get in contact with me. So that being said, I'm going to go. The other thing is that the skein will be listed. Again, it's a beautiful skein. I just wasn't a huge fan of it in the fade. Okay, so there's that. And I also have an extra skein of skein number 1. So this is not actually the Dye With Me skein. That was this one. But I have an extra that I dyed up last week. I don't know how it happened. I dyed up an extra skein. So this is also my BFL sock base. It's a 100-gram skein, and I'm gonna list this as a one of a kind. The Dye With Me kits are still available, and I'm gonna be taking them down soon. So if you like it and you haven't purchased it yet, do it now. I'm not sure when I'm gonna take it down, but it will be soon. So again, for the millionth time, thank you all so much. I really hope you enjoyed this series. It was a lot of fun for me, and I will be back with more Dye With Me videos soon. And I will see you then. Bye.